Welcome back to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee. I'm CarrieVee, your biggest fan. Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee is all things confidence, clarity, leadership, communication. This is all things life. And today we are talking about getting out of your head and actually back into your life. So, when we think about it, when we really think about it, we're honest with ourselves. Most of us do not have a confidence problem. We have a thought management problem. Listen to that again. We don't have a confidence problem. We have a thought management problem, right? We play conversations from 3 days ago, or 3 years ago, or 3 decades ago. We rehearse every text message that we haven't even sent yet, and we rewrite 15 versions of it in our head. We second guess the decision we've already made, the outfit we left the house in, the thing we already said. That's not a confidence issue. That is a thought traffic jam. Everything is jammed up inside of your head because you are thinking over every single action, every single word, and it is causing you to not live your life fully. So, here is what I want you to know before we go any further in this podcast. This podcast isn't about becoming someone else. You don't need a personality transplant. You don't need a personality transplant. You don't need to suddenly become the loud, fearless girl in the front row. You just don't need to become someone you aren't. This is about becoming more of who you already are, but without all the noise. Okay, so let's get into this. We're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to give you a journaling exercise at the end, of course, because if you know CarrieVee, you know that she is all about getting you to pick up a pen, a real pen, not an electronic journal, but a real pen, and write in a real journal. So we are going to get to that at the end, right? You don't have a confidence problem. You have a thought management problem. So let's clear something else first, because I think this is where a lot of us get it wrong. Emotional health is not the ability to control your feelings. Emotional health is not the ability to control your feelings. You can't control whether you feel anxious before a hard conversation. I think that's kind of normal. You can't control whether you feel hurt when somebody disappoints you. Of course, you're going to feel hurt. You can't control whether you feel overwhelmed on a Tuesday or a Wednesday for absolutely no logical reason. Emotional health, listen, is about understanding your emotions and responding to them differently. Emotional health is about understanding your emotions and responding to them differently. That's it. That is the whole shift that we're going to talk about. So here's the truth a lot of people miss. You are not your emotions. You experience your emotions. I'm going to say that again. You are not your emotions. You experience your emotions. You feel anxious. You are not anxiety. You feel insecure in a moment. You are not insecurity. You feel overwhelmed today, but you are not an overwhelmed person. You are not your emotions. You experience your emotions. And here's the part that's going to it's just going to set it's going to set all of you free if you let it. If you let it, okay? Your emotional patterns were learned, which means they can be unlearned. If you learned it, you can unlearn it, and then you can learn the real way to deal with it. So most of us are walking around reacting instead of responding. That's a huge difference. We're walking around reacting to things instead of taking the time to process and respond. So let me show you what's happening to your brain in real time. We have a trigger to a thought, to emotion, to reaction. Trigger, thought, emotion, reaction. And that can go so fast. We can be reacting before we even know that we are reacting. Have you ever seen someone just get so angry and they say things, and then afterwards you're trying to talk to them about the hurtful things they said? They're like, I didn't say that. They're not trying to tell you that they didn't say that. They're saying, I don't remember saying that. I was so in my emotions. I was so responding that I don't remember saying that. Or maybe that's you. Certainly has happened to me, where you get so upset about something that you react so fast, that you're not even aware of what you're saying or how many daggers you are throwing. I am throwing, we are throwing. We've all done it. We're all human. We've all done it. Trigger, thought, emotion, reaction. But this is where you actually have the power. It's in the thought. Step 2, we never have to get to emotion and reaction in a negative way. So trigger, thought, and that's where the magic happens, right there in that thought. Something happens. That's the trigger. Maybe it's a comment, a look, a missed call, a memory. That's usually when I'm triggered, is the memories. Like when if I think about my mom, maybe a conversation I had with my mom where I said something mean and now that she's gone, that triggers me a lot because I wish I could go back and fix it. And that can send me into a tailspin if I'm not very, very careful, right? So something happens. That's the trigger. A comment, a look, a missed call, a memory. Then you have a thought about it. That creates emotion and that drives your reaction. So, in the example I gave, I think about something that I said to my mom that I wish I had never said. That creates this emotion of sadness, which actually turns to irritability and anger in me. That drives my reaction, which is to be like to lash out around perfectly innocent people around me. Most people think the problem is the trigger or the emotion, but that's not the problem. The power is in right there in that middle, in the thought. Just because you feel it doesn't mean you have to follow it. Please, if nothing else, take that home with you today after this podcast and write it down and remember it. Look at it every single day, multiple times a day. Just because you feel it doesn't mean you have to follow it. You can feel triggered and still choose your next move. You can feel anxious and still send the email. You can feel insecure and still walk in the room. Feeling something is not your permission to obey it because just because you feel it doesn't mean you have to follow it. So let's talk about confidence because I think we've been lied to about what confidence really is. I mean, somewhere along the way, we picked up this belief confidence comes from having everything all together. So once I have everything all together, I'm just super confident. So you'll feel confident when you lose the weight. You feel confident once you get the promotion. You'll feel confidence once your life looks a certain way. But that is backwards. It is completely backwards. That thought process is poppycock. You're not going to suddenly feel confident just because you lose 10 pounds. You're not going to feel confident just because you get the promotion. You might never get the promotion if you're waiting for that to be what makes you confident. You're not going to just all of a sudden feel confident because something changed in your life. It's backwards. Confidence isn't something you wait for, it is something you build. It's something you build. And if you don't build it, you will constantly be holding yourself back. Real confidence comes from three places: showing up anyway, keeping your word to yourself, and taking aligned action when you are absolutely uncomfortably palm sweaty nervous. Real confidence, let me say that again, comes from three places: showing up anyway, keeping your word to yourself. Did you hear what I said? Not to others, although that's important too. Confidence comes when you keep your word to yourself. I'm going to start getting up at 5 a.m. every day. Tomorrow you sleep until 8, you didn't keep your word to yourself, your confidence plummets. Keeping your word to yourself. Taking aligned action, even when you are absolutely uncomfortably palm sweaty, nervous. That's where real confidence comes from. So I have shared multiple times on this podcast in talks that I give about my cancer journey and the aftermath of those surgeries. So two major cancer surgeries in 2021. One where they took half of my large intestine and one where they took my ovaries. Now I had a partial hysterectomy in 2009 where they did ovaries and cervix. In 2021, they took my ovaries. So by the time 2021 came, I was already heading into menopause, but I was not according to my hormone levels because that's the only way I really could tell. They were not postmenopausal yet. I also lost half my large intestine that year. So after the right hemicolectomy, where they took cecum, ascending colon, and partial of my transverse colon, it was very hard for me to digest food. I had my gallbladder out in my 20s. So now I'm looking at not only is digestion of fats a problem, digestion in general is a problem, and absorption of nutrients and minerals, extreme problem. Like literally, you see me drinking water, my water always has electrolytes in it because I'm always low in magnesium, sodium, potassium if I don't supplement them. I have had such a hard time learning how to eat and how to drink so that I digest food well again. And I have to be very careful. I have to make sure, like, it's not an option for me to get enough fiber. I have to get enough fiber. Things changed. And just as I was learning all of that, they came back and said, "We're going to need to take your ovaries." Very simple surgery. That's what they said. You're 50. How old was I then? I'm 60 now. So I was 55. You're 55 years old. So it's not going to be a big deal. It's just it's such an easy surgery. Okay, the surgery itself was easy. I was in the morning, 2 days before Christmas. I was home in the afternoon. Don't really remember feeling any pain at all. I mean, I followed their instructions, didn't lift heavy things, but it was an easy surgery, like in the technical aspects of it. But the recovery, the aftermath, the aftermath put me into a downward spiral that I didn't know how to stop myself from. It was I was already having trouble with absorption, remember? So after years and years and years of keeping a 100-pound weight loss off, like over 15 years of keeping 100 pounds off because I changed my whole lifestyle, didn't even think about it anymore. All of a sudden, I'm struggling with my weight a little bit because I had to learn how to live with half this large intestine, which does affect you physically, as you can imagine. But after they took my ovaries out, even though they said, "Well, you are, quote unquote, close to menopause anyway, it won't affect you that much." It threw me into a major tailspin. Within a few short months, I was almost 50 pounds heavier, and I didn't know why. I hadn't changed anything. And I didn't know how to take it off, still struggling with that. Still working with I'm not gonna say struggling, still working with my body on that to release that weight, still working with specialists, still figuring out this body of mine that now works very differently. But in the early days, I was extremely frustrated with it. But more than that, my confidence plummeted. And I started telling myself these things that we talked about earlier. When I lose the weight, I'll be confident again. When I look like I did before this cancer came for me, then I'll be confident again. And I let it hold me back. I let it hold me back. I stopped showing up. I stopped keeping promises to myself. I stopped taking aligned action. I just stopped. I didn't wanna be on stage because I thought people would judge me because I was in a bigger body. I thought that I didn't have as much to say because why would people respect me because I'm in a bigger body? I mean, to say it out loud seems absolutely ridiculous to me now, but I know at that time, it was very real to me, and I know from talking to many, many, many people, men and women, I'm not the only one who thought and thinks that way. And things started spiraling fast for me. I stopped speaking. I stopped showing up in public. If I could do something where it was just you'd only see my face, I was okay with that for a while. But then the inflammation set in and my face turned into an inflamed ball. And I didn't even want to do that. So I disappeared. I let myself disappear because I felt that I wasn't worthy to show up. Things didn't change until I decided to show up anyway, until I started to keep my word to myself. My morning routine, still important. I'm getting up early, I'm doing my thing. I'm going to lift the weights anyway. I'm going to love myself anyway. I'm going to show up on those stages anyway, even though I felt uncomfortable. And in my head, I still felt like people were going to judge me. And then I would put this slide at the end of my presentations where people give feedback. Guess what? Nobody mentioned my weight. No one. No one. All positive feedback. Every single piece of feedback was positive. Do you know any places where we could get CarrieVee speaking and the recommendations came in? Nobody cared but me. Confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. Speak up when you don't feel ready. That builds confidence. Set a boundary when someone who's used to you not having one Do it anyway. That builds confidence. Set those boundaries anyway. Do the thing while you're nervous, not after the nervousness goes away, because while it's there, that builds confidence. If you wait till it goes away, it's because you've given up and you're not going to do the thing. And then you're not going to build the confidence and you're not going to do the thing. That's a double negative whammy. Confidence is never a prerequisite. It's the byproduct. Listen to that. Confidence is never the prerequisite. It is the byproduct. You don't get confident and then act. You act and then confidence comes right along and catches up to you. You don't build confidence and then act. You act and then confidence comes running after and jumps up and says, ah, you got me, and jumps right on. That's how it works. So I promised you this would be practical, so let's make it practical. Here are 3 tools, very, very simple tools, ones you can use today in the car, at dinner, in the middle of an argument, whenever you want to make it happen. For me, I did this and I still do this while I'm getting dressed in the morning. My body isn't anywhere where I wanted it to be. But the truth is, my body is strong and it is powerful. I have been able to lift heavier and heavier weights. If this is where my body sits, I will love it. And it doesn't mean that I'm not struggling through it. It means I'm starting to give away the struggle because I don't need to have it. I don't need to have it. So 3 tools to shift in the moment. 1, name it. Name your thought. 2, check the thought. And 3, choose on purpose. So name it, check the thought, choose on purpose. 3 tools to shift your mindset. Tool 1 is name it. When you feel that wave hit, whatever it is, stop and ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Name it. What am I actually feeling right now? What is that feeling? Is it sadness? Is it grief? Is it disappointment? What are you feeling? It's not, I'm fine. It's not, I don't know. Actually, name it. Anxious, hurt, embarrassed, disappointed. What are you feeling? Naming it does something powerful. It creates awareness, and awareness is the first step out of autopilot. Awareness is the first step out of autopilot. Tool 2, check that thought. Once you've named the feeling, go 1 layer deeper and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Not is it true, because honestly, sometimes that's a harder question to answer in the moment. Just ask if it's helping you move forward or keeping you stuck. Because if I said, is that feeling true? I would say, yeah, it is true. That is how I'm feeling. But is that thought hurting me or helping me? And I can tell you that for years, every time I got dressed and completely beat myself up, I was hurting me. And I have worked with people, therapists who have said, until you let that go, you will not drop this weight. You won't. You won't, because you are so offending your body that it's creating this safety net, and it's not going to let it go. Things really started to change for me when I realized how much I was hurting myself. Okay, so number 3 is choose on purpose. Choose on purpose. And this is the one that changes everything. Ask yourself, what would the confident version of me do here? Not the anxious version, not the version that's about to spiral into a group text for validation, the confident version. The one who's already on the other side of this moment, looking back at it like it was no big deal. Do you hear me? The one who's already on the other side of this moment, looking back like it was no big deal. What would the confident version of me do here? In my example that I'm using throughout this podcast, the confident version of me would get clothes that fit so that I could get up every morning and put something on and know that I am dressing and clothing my body in something that makes me feel beautiful. That will hurt me. That will help me. Sorry, that will help me. The confident version of myself. So I had someone recently ask me, well, when you were 100 pounds overweight, which was until I was almost 40, how you were up on stage, you were singing, you were touring. What was your thought process then? I had to think it through, think back to that time. I simply had clothes that fit me that I loved and I wore, and I didn't think about it because I'd always been on the heavier side. And so this person said, well, what is different now? Well, the difference now is that I know what it feels like to have been in that. And I think I said smaller, healthier body. And she challenged me, why was that healthier? Why? Were you truly healthy? Well, to be honest, to be truthful, um, getting the cancer cut out of me was necessary because I also have a genetic disorder. That cancer would have grown to end stage colon cancer in less than 12 months. I know that. I've seen it happen in my family. I survived. I'm very thankful for that. And that's what I'm focusing on. And I'm treating this body that I'm in now with the same respect that I treated my body back in my 30s, loving myself, realizing that I'm still worthy. I am worthy. And there are many examples I could give. I'm just trying to follow this thread through everything. What would the confident version of myself do here? So here's something I need you to hear, and I need you to really hear it. You don't need a new life. You need a new way of thinking inside the life you already have. You don't need a new life. You need a new way of thinking inside the life you already have. Your circumstances are not the problem nearly as often as you think they are. It's the loop that you're stuck in about the circumstances. When I wanted to be on stage speaking, when I wanted to follow the dream I had of encouraging people and teaching and becoming a communication and a leadership expert and train businesses on how to communicate with each other, nonprofits to teach them how to communicate and how to be better leaders, how women could be empowered and confident. I thought I was stuck in a job because if I left, I wouldn't have health insurance. And if I left, I might lose my house. And if I left, like the whole world might fall apart. And I had to take a step back and really think about that. Was it the circumstances or was it the thought loop I was in about the circumstances? It was the thought loop. And once I started writing everything down, there was a solution to it all. There was a solution to it all. I just had to get out of the thought loop I was in and change the way I was thinking inside the life I already had. Then I was able to make that jump and make that shift and create this whole new amazing life for myself. You don't need a new life. You need a new way of thinking inside the life you already have. So, unless you're driving, I want you to just slow down for a second. If your phone's in your hand, put it down. And I want you to sit with 3 questions. You don't have to answer them out loud, just answer them honestly to yourself. So even if you're driving, you can answer these honestly to yourself, all right? Been where have you been holding yourself back? Where have you been holding yourself back? What's one thought you've been believing that genuinely is not serving you? And here's the big one. What would change in your relationships, your work, your faith, your daily life if you simply stopped agreeing with that thought? Where have you been holding yourself back? What thought isn't serving you? And what changes if you stop agreeing with it? So here's what I want you to leave this podcast with today. Confidence isn't about becoming fearless. That's not what confidence is. It never has been, though many people have said that's what it is. It's about becoming faithful to who you are, to what you're called to do, and how you show up even when it's hard. It's about becoming faithful to who you are, to what you're called to do, and how you show up even when it's hard. You don't need more confidence. You need more consistency. You don't need to feel ready. That's not how this works because you're never going to feel ready. You just start anyway, and the readiness shows up somewhere in the middle. Your thoughts are not facts. Your feelings are not your boss. And your past patterns are not your permanent address. Let me say that again. Your feelings are not facts. Your thoughts are not facts. I'm sorry. Your feelings are not your boss. And your past patterns are not your permanent address. Your thoughts are not facts, your feelings are not your boss, and your past patterns are not your permanent address. You get to choose on purpose, starting right now, today, what the next version of your story sounds like. So get out of your head and get back into your life. I am going to add a link under this podcast for you to book a one-on-one complimentary fact-finding call with me, and we will jump on a call together, and we will talk about this thought process in your life. What is holding you back? And what are the next steps that you can take? I would love to do that for you. So make sure you check that link underneath this podcast, underneath this YouTube, wherever you are listening or watching. I love you. I really am your biggest fan. I can't wait. I know this was a little bit longer than we usually do, but um, this is an important message. Confidence comes when you do the hard thing. So do the hard thing. Don't forget to send me your messages. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. You can email me. It's all underneath this podcast episode, whether you're watching or listening. So find those links, get in touch with me, book that call. Book that call. It could change your life. In fact, I guarantee you that if you dig in, take it seriously, and take the steps, it will change your life. I love you. I am your biggest fan.